Andy, what's a fun fact about Martin that those people might not know?
Well, a fun fact about Martin, well, one is that he hasn't seen Star Wars. But as we now know, second fun fact, he clearly hasn't seen Back to the Future.
And proud of it.
Gotta get back in time. Gotta get back in time.
We could talk about what I have seen.
Sure. Less fun of facts.
I just watched I, Claudius for about the 8th
Oh,
time.
yeah. It's a hoot.
Yeah. It's a soap opera. I mean, you know.
Victorian era professor.
Anthony Trollope right here. Yeah. That's hilarious. I had no idea. No, I just thought what I really liked about Andy was that he was just, he was not full of himself. He was a straight shooter, his demeanor was great. You pick up a lot of things about people that are silent messages. And I remember from that first time we talked, which I think might have been a Zoom, or was it a...
I think it was in your office, but
maybe
it was an interview. Yeah.
Okay, all right. No, I just had a sense that this works. This will work.
I think Carolina Law's future is just so bright. We have incredible forward momentum. It's reflected in the rankings over the past 10 years. We've gone from 45 to 18, and our employment outcomes right now are number 3, and our bar passage rate is number 7. So we're strong on so many different fronts, and we're just going to keep building on it and be really successful in the future.
I certainly agree with Andy that we're in a very, very good position right now. I think it will be, our task going forward to try to see how we're going to harness the character of the school while we continue to excel. And one of the things I believe about the place is that we may not have the financial resources of some schools that are ranked even lower than we are, but we have other forms of resources. We have human resources and resources of affection and, frankly, love that can't be quantified. Those have got to be preserved and sustained if this trajectory is going to continue.
Yeah, unquestionably, the thing that sets Carolina Law apart are the people. It's the faculty, the students, the interactions between them. You see people interacting in the rotunda, you see people interacting in the classroom. Off campus, we have events between faculty and students and other students and alumni, and that just doesn't happen at a lot of other schools. And I think related to it is the community. A lot of times law schools feel cold and distant, and people keep their heads down and they don't say hi when they pass in the hallway. But we just don't have that here. We've got this great community and school spirit, and that really is what makes it feel different. Law schools all have distinct personalities, and there are definitely some law schools that are just more competitive, in that there's more competition among the students and they're more cutthroat against each other. They hide books. They destroy books. I've seen books be destroyed. I've seen pages cut out of books. And we don't have that here. The students, they do want to succeed in class. They want to be top of the class, and they want the fancy jobs. But at the same time, they're collaborative. They work together. They study together. They help each other. And that you just don't see that at every other law school. Being a top 20 law school, we have the opportunity for growth in just every direction. We can attract incredible students. We can attract incredible faculty. We have the opportunity to place our students into a wider variety of jobs as more people recognize just how fantastic Carolina is. So I don't think that there's one particular area where there's going to be growth. I think it's going to be everywhere. There's just opportunity all over the place.
I would sort of excise a piece of the question, which is in the next year, because growth that counts and matters doesn't happen in a year. We've gotten to a place where further growth is going to take even more work than what it took to get us to where we are now. Staying where we are is going to take a lot of work. I agree with Andy, there's immense potential here. We have a combination of factors related to our cost, our culture, which is known, I think, out in the world among prospective students and frankly among faculty who might want to join us. We can score almost every time we, approach the tennis ball with the racket, but we've got to stay in shape to be able to make that happen. But I agree, there's immense opportunity.
Well, Martin's great at telling stories, so I'm sure that people have heard most, if not all, the stories. But, I think the story that's so important that is Carolina law is we're the first public law school, and we just haven't lost sight of that. And we are just part of North Carolina. Yes, we serve the whole nation, right? We create lawyers and leaders for the entire country, for the entire world. But we have a special relationship with North Carolina. Right? Our services are here. Our clinics represent people in North Carolina. We provide direct aid to people in North Carolina. And most of our graduates end up taking the bar in North Carolina. And I think that is the core story of the law school that sort of sets it apart from other law schools.
We cannot underestimate the importance of the support that we have received from the people of the state, the taxpayers of the state, as given to us by their elected representatives over more than a century now. The law school existed for a number of decades without public support, but it began to participate in the university's public support about 100 years ago. And the General Assembly still gives us money that represents about 40% of our revenue budget. And we're very, very grateful for that.
If there's one thing that we could change about the law school, that I could change about the law school, the building. The building is good enough to get the job done of teaching law students right now and making attorneys. However, it is not a strong enough facility to meet the needs of the future. As law changes, as technology changes, we need to be able to adapt to that. And the facilities just aren't up to it. And at the same time, because of constraints on the ability to add additions or rework spaces, we just can't really expand any programs.
I'll just add to that I'm of sort of two minds about it. One is, am I really going to teach business associations any differently in a fancy new classroom? No. In fact, there might even arguably be a certain charm, Victorian charm, to me teaching business associations in 5046. But reality is we're not going to be taken seriously as a top 20 law school if we don't get serious about the physical accommodation in which we welcome our students and our faculty and our alumni and our other guests. We need spaces for public events, for speakers, for programming of various kinds. We need places where people can form those relationships that make the place so special. And we got to get serious about making that happen because this facility is holding us back. When people who don't know us come here, they judge us based on everything that they see, and they get to decide what those criteria are. We can ask them to judge us based on an array of factors. And they might accept some of our factors, but they're going to feel perfectly free to include their own factors. So we might hope that they're not looking at our building, but they're looking at the building. And at some level, they're saying to themselves, how can this place be this great if no one is willing to make an investment that seems to back up the statistics that I see on paper? It's a disjunct. It's a discordant note in an otherwise extraordinary picture. Well, I'll just say, Andy and I have worked so closely together these last 9 years on everything that I've tried to do as dean to lift the school. And many people, I think, know him as, the guy who works on the rankings, but it's far, far more than that. He, unlike me, was a pro at law school. He'd been a faculty member at several different schools. He knew the strengths and weaknesses of different schools and their ways of approaching things, different ways of running a law school administration. And I think that, frankly, his personality is one that our community is going to respond to. It already does, but I think as folks like the alumni who may not have seen him quite as much, some alumni certainly have, but maybe not as many as will. They're going to just respond very positively to his combination of goodwill and humor, but seriousness and knowledge of how to make things happen that they care about.
Yeah, I would say just the strongest quality that I've seen in Martin is his ability to focus on the big picture. He doesn't get lost in the details, and he's really good at recognizing talent and hiring talent to be able to handle the details while he just focuses on the whole forest. Let the others look at the trees. And I think that's really a major contributor to the success of the law school. Everyone sort of has their job, has their task, but it's worked only because he stayed up at 10,000 feet and let other people be down on the ground.
My advice for Andy is be himself, find the place where you are most comfortable with yourself and live there as much as possible. And wherever that takes you, and whenever there is resistance to that, just ignore it and move on and keep on in that place. Because if you're not in that place, ultimately, it's not going to work.
My advice to Martin is to really appreciate the impact that you have as a faculty member. It's so easy as dean to see the impact that you have. Things are coming at you quickly. You make decisions every day, and those decisions have immediate, tangible effects. That often doesn't happen when you're on the faculty. You'll be teaching classes, and it's just sort of day-to-day, and time passes. But you really do have a significant impact, probably more of an impact than dean in many ways. You are molding people, you're shaping their careers, you're getting them ready to practice law. And you don't see it right away. Sometimes you don't see it for 5 years, 10 years, maybe even longer. But every once in a while, you'll get some sort of feedback. You'll get a note from a student, something like that saying like, thank you so much. Or, the other day, this particular issue came up and I remember we covered it in class and it really just answered the question for me and it really mattered. And so it's just, don't forget, don't sort of lose sight of how much you actually do matter when you're a faculty member.
If you like a law school that is positioned the way that we are currently positioned, that will not be accomplished simply with reliance on the General Assembly's gracious funding, and tuition. We've got to have you engaged financially and personally in the school. And if I were Andy, one of the things that I would have as a goal is to have our alumni make the law school among their top 3 charitable priorities going forward.